Our keynote speaker, let's get ready for this, Tyler Hamilton, rose quickly through the ranks of cycling world to become one of Lance Armstrong's most trusted lieutenants. But just after reaching the pinnacle of his cycling career with a gold medal win at the 2004 Olympics, his world came crashing down. During the investigation into doping on the cycling circuit that ensued, Tyler Hamilton broke the code of silence that had protected the sport's dark secret for so long. He shed light on the shocking culture of performance-enhancing drug use that had been encouraged and aided by team doctors, managers, and also coaches. His story is the example of how culture can drive behavior, on how values can in turn be easily compromised. His story is also a bold testament to the transformational power of truth. So please welcome Mr. Tyler Hamilton.
Thank you, Karen. Big thank you to the World Lottery Association for having me and my girlfriend, Christina, here. And a special thank you to Lynn Reuter. Lynn, are you here? Oh, there she is. Thank you, Lynn. It's an honor to be here, and also a special thank you for adjusting my schedule. I was supposed to speak on Monday morning, but I missed my connecting flight in Dallas. And so yeah, luckily they were able to get a slot for me here this morning. So thank you for coming. I'll speak for about 20 minutes or so and then open it up to question and answer. I'm an open book now, so please ask any question you want. So yeah, the Tour de France. It's arguably the world's most difficult athletic event. 21 days, over 2,500 miles, 40,000 kilometers. On some of the world's most punishing roads. It's like running a marathon every day for 3 weeks. I raced the Tour de France 8 times and put every ounce of energy into that race. Getting to that final finish line in Paris was a feat in itself. But during those years, finish lines were not the only lines being crossed. Cycling had a dark side. A side I wasn't ready for, and one that pushed me over a line I thought I'd never cross. And once on the other side, there was no going back. It was the beginning of a double life, filled with secrets and lies that would destroy me from the inside, long after I left the sport. Johnny Cash once said, "Lies have to be covered up, but truths can run around naked." This is my story about lies and the truth, and what happens when you compromise your values to chase a dream. How one bad decision can snowball into so many more. It's also about realizing that no matter how bad things get, or how impossible a situation seems, there's always a way out. When I began racing, I realized I had a special ability to endure pain. It might sound strange, but pain is something I've always been good at. It comes from my family. My parents would tell me when I was younger, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Hamiltons are tough. Another Hamilton trait was honesty. My parents didn't put many demands on us. But the one thing they wouldn't put up with was lying. Tell the truth or else, no matter what. Tough and honest, with those two traits I thought I could handle just about anything. When it came to racing, I always knew I could outwork anyone and that I could win at the highest level on grit and a willingness to suffer alone. When I arrived at the top tier of professional cycling, I did what I knew best. I worked my tail off, and I never gave up. During that time, there was a word I kept hearing the Europeans say, paniagua. That that guy's doing well, even though he's Paniagua. Or, he'll never finish today. He's Paniagua. Eventually, I realized what they were saying was Spanish, pan y agua. Translated to English, anyone? It means bread and water. In other words, racing clean, without any performance-enhancing drugs. During that same time, I noticed the top guys on my team getting these little white lunch bags from the team doctors after every race. I didn't know what was in them, but I knew I wasn't getting one. Then I figured out what was going on, and that became my motivation to work even harder to prove I didn't need one. But things were about to change. One night, after a tough week-long stage race in southern Spain, there I was in my hotel room, collapsed on my bed, physically depleted, completely exhausted. The team doctors knew I was hurting, and one of them, Pedro Celaya, came in to check on me. He was concerned and sympathetic, almost fatherly. He told me how hard I had worked, how much I had pushed through the pain, and how he admired that in me. I had to start taking care of my body, he said, make myself healthier. Pedro always wore this fly fishing vest that had all these pockets. He reached into one of them and pulled out a little red egg-shaped capsule. He said, "Tyler, this is for your health. It's not doping, it's for your health." He handed me the capsule, and there I was, at the crossroads. In or out, yes or no. I swallowed the red egg without much thought. In it was testosterone, a banned substance. Of course, I knew it was against the rules, but I had worked so hard and was so close to my dream of riding in the Tour de France that I felt I owed it to myself to look the other way. And I justified it. I told myself everybody was doing it, and it was a necessary part of competing at the top level. But I knew it was wrong, and deep down, I was ashamed. But that shame was buried by a new feeling of possibility. How far can I go? How fast can I ride? How good can I be? In a strange way, it was a badge of honor. It meant the team finally thought I was good enough to get a white lunch bag. Now on the inner circle, I was next introduced to injections of a drug called EPO, or Edgar Allan Poe as we called it. EPO increases the production of red blood cells, which carry oxygen to the muscles and improves endurance. With EPO, we could train harder and longer. And in a 3-week race like the Tour de France, EPO is an absolute game changer. In the beginning, EPO and all the other drugs were given, paid for, transported, and administered by the team. Because it was all done for us, we reasoned it was the team actually breaking the rules, and we, the riders, were just the dutiful employees. But that situation changed in the '98 Tour de France when police raided a vehicle of a French team and uncovered a massive amount of doping products. From that point on, it became too risky for the team to manage our doping program. We would now have to do it ourselves. Team management told us this new system was for safety. But now the risk of transporting and border crossing was all on us. Since there would be no EPO in the team cars anymore, how do we get it during the Tour de France? Our team leader, Lance Armstrong, came up with a plan. His gardener, Philippe, or Motoman as we nicknamed him, would zip through the Tour de France circus on his motorcycle and drop off the drugs to an undercover staff member. The staff member would have our syringes waiting for us, sometimes tucked in our sneakers or in our race bags. We would inject quickly, 30 seconds at the most, and then bury the syringe into an empty Coke can. We'd then crush the can to make it look like trash, and the team doctor would stuff it in the bottom of his backpack, open the door, and walk past the crowds of fans, journalists, and even police. There we were in the middle of one of the world's largest sporting events, injecting banned drugs just feet from thousands of people. People always want to know, weren't there drug tests? Why didn't you guys get caught? Of course there were, and there were lots of them. But if you follow the doctor's instructions or cheat sheets, none of them were hard to beat. I probably passed hundreds of tests when I shouldn't have. And in the 1990s, there was no test for EPO at all. In the year 2000, that situation changed. The team was warned by an inside source that an EPO test could be used at the upcoming tour. We needed a new strategy. To work around the EPO test, the team decided to try a safer alternative. A couple weeks before the Tour de France, I boarded a private jet with Lance and another teammate and flew to Valencia. Below us, we could see the French Riviera, the mansions, and the yachts. It felt like a fantasy world. When we landed in Valencia, the team doctors and staff members were there on the tarmac waiting for us. As we were shuttled to the secluded hotel, the team doctors told us how easy this new method would be, how safe it was, and how there was absolutely nothing to worry about. What they were talking about was blood transfusions, or blood doping. I'd heard about transfusions before, but I couldn't believe that athletes were actually doing them. It's a process where the doctors will extract your blood, store it in a fridge or freezer, and then reinfuse it back into you when your body is depleted. It has the same red blood cell boosting effect on the body that EPO has, only this was natural. But in reality, it was a risky, dangerous procedure with massive consequences if done improperly. Blood transfusions are not the same as swallowing a little pill or getting a little injection. Here you're watching a big clear bag fill up with your own warm red blood. You never forget it, and you never get used to it. And when you're leaving it in the hands of doctors with questionable pasts, things can go wrong. After one visit, I left the doctor's office in a hurry to catch a flight. Hailing a cab with one arm, I felt a strange wetness on the other. I looked down to see my hand dripping with blood and my sleeve completely soaked in red. It looked as though I'd been stabbed. The hole from the extraction needle hadn't closed. That point in time characterized exactly what my life had become. There I was on a busy street corner in Madrid, hiding behind dark glasses and a baseball cap, paranoid of being seen. In one hand, I'm holding a secret cell phone filled with code names and numbers, and the other hand is dripping with blood. And down the street, in a backroom clinic, a doctor I don't trust is stockpiling bags of my blood, all for a bicycle race. People always want to know, why wasn't that enough to make me stop it all right then and there? My reality was so twisted by then, I reasoned it was just temporary. My career would be over in a couple of years, and once it was done, I'd go back to living a normal life. So there I was, at the top of the pack, cruising up and over the French Alps and Pyrenees, the Italian Dolomites, and the Belgian Ardennes. winning at the highest level in the most famous bike races in the world. I was now the elite of the elite. I had fulfilled my childhood dream of becoming an Olympic champion. I truly made it. I was living the American dream, and my family was so proud. Invitations came rolling in. Ring the opening bell on Wall Street. Throw out the first pitch at a Boston Red Sox game. Nationally televised interviews. These wins, these highs, these accomplishments should have made me feel like I was on top of the world. Yet my life was spinning out of control, and I worried more about getting caught than I did about winning. But what could I do? I had already walked into the casino and rolled the dice. I was in over my head. There was no turning around and no going back. And then it all came to a screeching halt. It was the second week of the 2004 Tour of Spain. I was at the peak of my cycling career, and I got the news. I'd failed a drug test. Another person's cells were detected in my blood. I assumed that the blood bags had been mixed. It was a mistake that could have killed me. So there was my moment, my opportunity to finally do the right thing. Tell the truth, take responsibility, leave all this behind, and start my life over again. Instead, with the pressure mounting, I lied. Professional cycling was a brotherhood. We lived by the omerta, a code of silence we all understood. We protected each other. We protected the system. Lying and denying was what I was supposed to do. You get caught, you say nothing, you take one for the team. That's how it was done. If I told the truth, I would have to implicate everyone involved, dozens of people. Many of them, my friends, would lose their jobs, and I'd be blackballed from the sport forever. I received a 2-year suspension. For 14 years, I lied to everyone. During that time, I had two faces. The person they thought I was, and the person I knew I was. A doper and a liar who's unraveling on the inside. I dealt with depression, I drank too much alcohol, I had suicidal thoughts and feelings of self-hate that never went away. I was alone and a prisoner of my decisions. I retired in 2009. 6 years after I rode in my last Tour de France, I received a subpoena at my front door. There was a federal investigation underway into Lance Armstrong and the U.S. Postal Service cycling team. I was ordered to testify in front of a grand jury. The choice in front of me was stark. Tell the truth or go to jail. When I walked into that Los Angeles courtroom, I knew what I had to do. From the very first question, the truth came pouring out. And for the next 7 hours, I unloaded more than a decade of lies. The more I talked, the more I realized I had spent the last 14 years protecting a culture that was never worth protecting. I was breaking the omerta and the unwritten rule of the brotherhood, giving testimony that would destroy careers, hopes, dreams, and lives. But in that moment, I was free. Now, would I have come clean had my back not been against the wall? If nothing had changed and I still believed I had a responsibility to protect the sport, the answer is probably not. Being forced to testify gave me clarity and the courage to take back my life. For 14 years, I believed the truth would ruin me. In the end, the truth saved me. Well, my story happened in cycling. Every industry has its unwritten rules, its own secret race. Corporate corruption is widespread. Academic cheating is at an all-time high. And a growing number of people in the workplace feel they have to bend the rules just to get ahead. Whether the rewards are money, fame, power, personal validation, a promotion, or a scholarship, the pressure to excel is taking its toll. Every day we're presented with red eggs, moments when the lure of success or fear of failure puts us to the test. Should you fudge that number just this once to meet your sales quota? Do you inflate your resume to get that dream job? Do you turn a blind eye when your boss overcharges a customer? I wish I'd been better prepared for that day Pedro walked into my hotel room. I wish I thought harder about swallowing that first red egg, about where it would lead and how out of control things would get. I wish I knew how numb victories would feel when they were achieved dishonestly. And I wish I knew then that giving back an Olympic gold medal would feel better than winning it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, thank you.
Brave and courageous speech.
Oh, thank you.
We have a little time for questions and answers. I think this is a unique opportunity that you're having now, so don't be shy. He's the man, so you can
Yes.
ask whatever you want.
Yes, sir.
Please. This is a volunteer with a mic. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your talk. It was great. So I read that there was some pressure by Lance Armstrong when you were going to testify. So that happened with Floyd Landis and with his wife or something, but did that happen with you? Did you put some pressure when you were going to court?
Yes. Yeah, I could probably talk for a while about that. But yeah, there was some, he didn't like the fact that I was, coming forward and telling the truth. And he put a lot of pressure on me and confronted me at one point, face to face.
Physically? Sorry.
Yeah, it wasn't physical, but yeah, it was probably as close to being physical as possible. Yeah, that's called witness intimidation. So, yeah, it did happen. Yeah, he was a pretty powerful individual at one point in his life, and so it didn't really surprise. We were teammates for 4 years, so I knew him pretty well, and so it didn't totally surprise me. But yeah, he was. I think he probably regrets that today, but yeah, he did put a lot of pressure on me not to, continue with the Omerta, continue just, I was prepared for a long time before I got pulled into this investigation. I was prepared to go to the grave with all my secrets. I thought it was the best thing for me, for all my old teammates, and for the whole sport of cycling, just to keep it a secret. And even though I was suffering inside with all these massive lies, it was the best thing to do was keep it a secret. But little did I know, it was like that was the worst thing I could ever have done. And once I told the truth in front of the grand jury, it was like a massive weight off my back, probably 100-kilogram backpack, gone. So that changed my life forever. And yeah, life has been climbing up ever since that moment. So yeah, I feel very fortunate.
Okay. Another one. Yes, over there, please. In the middle. And there's a volunteer over there. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. It's going to. Thank you.
What did your family know? What did they say, and what was their reaction? Yeah,
my family didn't know. My wife at the time, she knew, and she went along with things and understood that, understood what we kind of had to do. But no, my parents didn't know. Yeah, mother, father, brother, sister, they didn't know. I had to lie to them for a long time, and I told them. I did after I testified in the Los Angeles courtroom there. I went on a show in the United States called 60 Minutes. It's an investigative show, and that was the first time I really told the truth in front of the whole public, and I told my family the day before it aired on television. Yeah, it was the hardest thing I've had to do. It was really, really difficult. But when I did explain it from the beginning to the end, the whole thing, how it all evolved, they did understand. Obviously, they were extremely disappointed, but they did understand how someone could get caught up in it. And but yeah, I never plan on doing that again, having to, tell them a massive truth. That I was covering up a huge lie for a long time, and living a double life, and it was no fun at all.
Okay.
Good question.
Yeah. Any other question? Over there, please volunteer. In the middle of the aisle. Okay.
How much difference did you feel on the days when you were taking the blood bags?
Oh yeah, the blood transfusions, big game changer. Like the EPO, which would boost your red blood cell count. The blood bags would do that times 3. It would change your hematocrit about 3 points, which is in the sport of cycling, that's a huge amount. So it could help you up 5-10%. Some people say, all the doping helped up to 15. Some people even said 20%. It's hard to say exactly, but we were training extremely hard. You had to be really, really skinny. All that. It was all that diet. Good nutrition, all that, and then there was the doping side too. So all these different factors. You couldn't just sit on the couch and dope and expect to be good in the Tour de France. It was all those combined. And the doping was just part of being professional, as they called it. But yeah, the transfusions were a massive game changer. For any sport like cycling, like running, just any sport where you're running around a lot, where your heart rate's very high. Extremely effective,
Any other? Over there. Okay.
Morning, Tyler. Thank you for for sharing your story.
Absolutely.
Do you get a chance to talk to kids? Because I'm sure many of us are parents here, and our kids see the Tyler Hamiltons. They see the Roger Federers, the Neymars of the world, and kids live by seeing athletes like you on TV and wanting to be. So it's important to get the message out there to do things right. So have you had a chance to
That's
talk
great.
to
I talk
young
to kids as much as possible. Ideally, I just talk to kids because they're the ones that are really going to learn from all my mistakes and this message. Yeah, my girlfriend's a 4th grade school teacher. I plan on going to speak in front of her class this year, and but yeah. Throughout the year, I do that as much as possible, and kind of drop the ego, unzip. And they're tough. The kids are tough because they're like, why did you cheat? You're like, that's a great question. You knew it was wrong. Why'd you do it? So, and I knew it was wrong the whole time. A lot of my old teammates or competitors, they said, well, I didn't really feel like it was cheating because we were all doing it. But I don't know. I always knew it was wrong. But I just kept telling myself, well, it's just a small period of my life where I got to look the other way, and just it was what the sport was doing at that time. So, but yeah, kids. The key is talking to kids and sharing the story.
So,
Sure.
Over here.
Morning.
I'm sorry.
Hi there.
First. Yes,
Hi.
first.
Hi. Do you think cycling is clean today?
Do I think cycling is clean today? It's not clean today. They're still catching guys, so you can't say it's clean. I would guess it's cleaner, after the dark days of when I was racing and Lance, and I think it's gotten better, but yeah, they're still catching guys, and personally, I don't know if they've done enough to really make a big difference. I would like to, it does bother me a little bit that it's not, that I feel like it's not better today. It should be better, after everything that we all went through, You know, I wouldn't want to be I mean, I look back, I wish like it was never an opportunity for any of us. Like, I don't think any of us wanted to dope, but it was like, you know, cycling at that time in the mid-90s was just rotten. It was rotten to its core with doping. Very prevalent, you know. Before that Festina affair where the police raided the French vehicle, it was wide open. You know, teams, like I was saying in the speech, that teams were handing out white lunch bags filled with doping products, you know, at races. Very nonchalant about it. You know, once the police raided the French vehicle and uncovered all the doping products, that's when everything kind of went underground. You know, the secret cell phone, paranoid about being seen, you know, at the blood doping doctor's office and all that. But yeah, I think there's still some work to be done in professional cycling. But obviously, cycling's not the only sport where they're having a problem with doping.
Mm-hmm.
So,
over there.
Just one comment, and I'm over here.
Hey, Fritz.
Okay, over there.
Yeah, we talked yesterday, so
yeah.
Tyler, it's...
How are you?
I'm fine, how are you?
Yeah, good.
So one comment and 2 questions. First comment, as it says on the 2 screens up there, very, very, very important that you requested to give the gold medal back. And as you know, I'm coming from the IOC, so it's not easy for us because not all doping cheats do that. And therefore, we do face some challenges if it comes to sports law to get the medals back. So thanks to you.
No, I'm sorry I
Doesn't-
cheated and lied about it for such a long time. So no, I'm
Good.
Doesn't happen that
no
often.
regret. I'm so happy that I did that. And
Yeah, and now my 2 questions. One, just out of interest, because we talked yesterday, I'm a cyclist myself, so question 1 is, what do you think if you look at the course of the Tour de France, because it becomes harder and harder from year to year? Next year, I think it will be 10 of the top mountains there, so does that help? It's a rhetorical question, but does that help in talking about the issue that you're talking about here? And question 2, and that is connected to the question before. Talking to kids, yes, of course, very important. But are you in contact like with WADA, with the ITA, like anti-doping entities? Do they want to use your story? And are you asked to help them to talk to youngsters? Because it says behind you prevention of competition manipulation. So
I'll answer your second question first. Yes, I spoke at a conference in Paris in front of WADA committee. You know, I think there are a lot of people not happy that I was there, but, you know, extremely not happy. But yeah, they invited me to come speak, and I did that. I've spoken in front of USADA, which is the United States Anti-Doping Agency. All sorts of different national federations. I spoke in front of USA Swimming. USA Cycling's not very, I don't think they're a big fan of mine, so they haven't asked me to come talk yet. And I understand, I definitely understand. But yeah, so whenever I have the opportunity to go speak in front of an anti-doping organization, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And hopefully I get more opportunities in the future. I think it's important. I guess, you know, I wish they brought in other cyclists too, and to get them to come and speak openly about it. Is the Tour de France becoming too hard? That's basically your question. Is it too hard? I think it's too hard. You know, this, let's see. This climb right here is called Alpe d'Huez.
Whoa.
It's a very prestigious climb in the Tour de France. It's in the Alps, French Alps. And I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, on the second to last day of the Tour de France, so on day 20, they had the poor riders go up this thing twice. You know? It's brutal just to go, you know, and that's riding, you know, 160 kilometers, 180 kilometers beforehand, and then going up that twice. It's hard enough going up at once. Even if you just started the race at the bottom and went to the top, that'd be hard enough. But yeah, they went up it twice, and I don't know, that really angered me. Yeah, I think that says enough, yeah. But any other questions?
Yeah, over there on the corner. Yeah, over there. Yes.
Yes, a very good morning, and really kudos on your courage, Tyler. I have a question considering over here.
Oh,
Yeah, over here.
Okay.
Considering that I'm taking a look towards the future with regards to sports, it's getting more competitive, and the $1 billion that is being spent in endorsements and stuff. Do you think that in the future, maybe the enhancements and performances will have to be part of the whole thing in order to create a level playing field for everybody?
Yeah. So did everybody hear what he said? Like in the future, will they just allow some of these performance-enhancing drugs, or maybe all of them, so there's a level playing field? You know, I've heard that discussed before. I say they can't do it. Absolutely not. They have to continue with the fight against doping, and really double down or triple down and really work harder at it. It's you know, what's it going to say if all the professionals are allowed to take, you know, X amount of performance-enhancing drugs? You know, what are the kids going to do? They're going to follow in the footsteps, and I think it sets a really bad precedent. So we just got to work even harder to try to clean up not only cycling but all of sport. Better testing, more education. And these anti-doping organizations just need more support. They need more financial support, and you know, hopefully someday there'll be like a computer thing you can just plug into somebody's shoulder, and you can see exactly what they've taken over the last 6 months. Wouldn't that be great? So you know, no athlete would be able to dope whatsoever. But you know, right now there's still a lot of work to be done, and there's still, you know, I think the loophole. There used to be a lot of, like when I was racing, the loopholes were like huge. So you could, you know, if you followed the simple instructions from the doctor, you could get away with it. I think the loopholes are smaller now, but they're still pretty wide open. So people are still able to, you know, cheating is still going on. Absolutely. Blood doping, EPO, people are still taking EPO, just smaller amounts. You know, it's a science. There's a science to it, and really the bad doctors tell the athletes how to do it, how to get away with it. And you know, when there's a lot of money at stake, a lot of pressure at stake, a lot of jobs at stake, you know, one rider on a cycling team can you know, they're one rider on a team of 25 cyclists plus a staff of another 30 or 40 staff members. You know, one rider's results can really decide whether the team continues to get sponsorship. So, yeah.
I have another one over there, back. Yes.
Hi, good morning. I have a question. If you knew you were cheating, why did you basically continue cheating in your heart of hearts?
Yeah. No,
you say your parents taught you well, but you knew you were cheating.
Yeah. So I knew I was cheating. Why did I continue to cheat? Yeah, I'd worked so hard to get up to that level. I had no idea what I was getting into when I got to that level. I didn't know how rampant doping was. But I eventually just said, okay, this is crazy. This sport's, you know, just rotten with doping. It's the only way to compete. You know, I've worked so hard to get up to this level, and like, I don't want to just stop. I want to, you know, try to see if I can race in the Tour de France, and But I knew it was wrong. I thought about it. Typically in the middle of the night, I'd wake up, usually between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning, and look at the ceiling. I call them committee meetings, you know. And I just sit there and look and just wonder, like, what I was doing and whether I was going to get caught. And I always thought to myself, this secret within the whole peloton, you know, the whole elite level of cycling, like, it's so big, like, I didn't understand how the truth wasn't going to come out. And I was very fearful of that. And the truth came out. The truth came out. So, you know, I do feel lucky that I had the opportunity to really tell the truth, and it has changed my life.
And apart from speaking, what else are you doing with yourself these days?
Yeah, I have a coaching business. So I have like an online coaching business where I write custom training programs for cyclists. I have one friend of mine, he works on that as well. It's called Tyler Hamilton Training. I do a bunch of work for MS charity for multiple sclerosis. I had a good friend of mine pass away from multiple sclerosis about 7, 8 years ago by the name of Jimmy Hugo. So yeah, do a bunch of work for them, raise a lot of money for them every year. I put on a week-long bike ride to raise money for MS. Those are the big things that I do. Yeah, I mean, my favorite thing is just trying to give back and helping other people.
Okay, over there in the middle.
Tyler,
Sir.
Besides a very courageous story, thank you very much for sharing that with us. This is all about, a lot of this is about you. I have another question. It is about the regulator. How is it possible, in your opinion, that the regulator somehow has turned a blind eye, or do you believe that there's been some kind of coercion with the doping community by the UCI?
Yeah.
The fact that you had junior teammates who were always behind you when you were racing, when you were 15, suddenly the year after they were 25 miles ahead of you, mountain up, and everybody turned a blind eye.
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion about the role of the UCI and all the regulators in this whole doping scandal? Yeah,
I mean, so the UCI is the governing body of cycling. It's called the Union Cycliste Internationale. Yeah, you know, they knew that doping was a problem in cycling for sure. Is it just their fault? No. I mean, is it just the riders' fault? No. Is it just this? You know, a lot of people were involved. And it had been growing for a long time. It didn't start in 1993 when Lance Armstrong arrived at the professional ranks. It didn't start in 1995 when I arrived, or 1997 when I arrived at the elite level of cycling. It didn't start then. It had been going on for years and years, decades and decades. And it had grown and grown and grown. I think the UCI, the governing body of the sport, became complacent. They knew, it was such a hard sport. Of course there's going to be riders doping, And then in the 90s, this new drug came out called EPO, which was the real game changer. That they knew was going on. They knew it was going on for sure. And then they didn't really. The first time there was real pressure to do something was when the French team car was raided by the police, and that's when the public realized, wow, it's real. This team had a car full of doping products, and the word on the street was they weren't the only team doing that, and that was the first time there was pressure on them to do something. The next year, so that was 98. The next year was 1999. They called it something like the Revival Tour, like the new beginning. And guess who won that year? That was Lance Armstrong's first time winning, and then he won the next 7 tours. So there was no revival or renewed tour. It just went underground, and I think they put on a little bit of a facade, and nothing really happened. But yeah, there's I think a lot of people at fault for it, but you can't pick one person or one organization. It had been happening a long time. Blood doping was going on in the 80s. The U.S. team, it was called illegal. Let's see. It wasn't officially illegal back then, blood doping, but yeah, the U.S. team blood doped the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles.
The last one over there. Sir, you had the microphone.
Thank you, Tyler, for your courage and what you're doing for not just for cycling, but for sport in general. You may have mentioned it already, but I have a question with respect to if you were aware of, or if there was the influence of betting syndicates and then the pressure betting syndicates at the time, and whether they would have put pressure not just on individual cyclists or individuals like yourselves, but perhaps even on your teams, your team management, UCI or whoever at that time. Were you aware of any of that?
Was I aware of any betting in cycling during my career? I had heard people betting in cycling. I'd heard of people doing that. Every once in a while, somebody would come up to me, just at a race, a fan, and say, I won a lot of money on you in the Tour Romandy, or I won a lot of money on you in this race. And I always thought that was a little bit bizarre, you know, that, and they were really excited. I know of races where there might be 2 or 3 riders vying for the victory, and there was a deal that was made, if that makes sense. A deal on the road between the riders, or sometimes even between the directors who are in the follow cars behind. So that might mean, you know, there might have been a payoff, like, okay, you take the victory and, you know, and you pay me X amount of money. Other times it was like, you take the victory, but then in the middle of a stage race, you take the victory, but then in the stages to come, your team has to help. We've given you a favor, now you have to give us a favor back. That would happen, you know, that happened more than a half dozen times that I knew of, you know. So that, yeah, there was an element of I don't know what the right word is, but, you know, there was stuff that happened behind the scenes that, you know, manipulated the race. Favors were made, you know. We let you take the victory today, but, you know, next week we're going to in the same race in the Tour de France. You know, it's 3 weeks long. So if we give you we give you this victory today. You know, next week we're going to need your help. You guys return the favor next week, and so yeah, that didn't feel right to me. So
there's no more question. We have no time. So thank you, Mr. Tyler.
Thank you guys.